Even though this might seem like a time of crisis, there's no doubt about it. So much division, so much fear. Sadhguru, the spiritual teacher, says this is an important time for transcendence and spiritual change. With all this craziness in the world, maybe it's an opportunity. How often in your life has crisis brought about the kind of change you needed to embrace? Sadhguru here talks about the relevance, importance and significance of the moment we're living through right now. Have a look at it. Tell me what you think at the end, so don't go nowhere.
Do you think it's the role of somebody on the path to change themselves to fit in with the world, or to change the world? I ask this mindful of us being in a time that seems to be ubiquitously in crises.
See, this is a fundamental question in the world. Should the world shape human consciousness, or human consciousness shape the world, or the society, not the world? World need not be shaped by us. The human societies, should it be a consequence of human consciousness, or human consciousness an unfortunate reflection of the societies in which we exist at a certain time? Well, unfortunately it's become like this. The societies that you live in, the geographic areas that you live in and the generations that you live in, unfortunately is shaping human consciousness for too long. When we utter the word spiritual, it essentially means this, that you are not shaped by external influences, but by the nature of life itself. So the shape of what this is not about a reflection of many complex situations in which we exist. These complexities in situations have happened mainly because we have not realized the full potential of what it means to be conscious. So, whether we want to be a conscious response to everything that's around us, or want to be a compulsive reaction to all that happens around us, is the essential question that you're asking. I think the answer is very obvious, isn't it?
Yes, and it also seems to me that we are occupying cultures created from our collective and indeed individual unconscious as opposed to conscious experience. I see evidence of primal drives in greed, in the way that we organize our economics, lust, the way that we organize marketing, advertising, and the way that we interact sexually. How, without some deep investigation into the individual unconscious and the social unconscious, are we to mobilize and change society? And is it our duty to do that, or ought we to continue to further excavate individual spiritual territory?
So this is like asking, suppose there is a flowering plant, let's say, because you're in London. Are you in London still?
Just outside, yeah.
Yeah. So, let's say there's a rose plant. If you nurture it well, it'll come out with rose flowers. So is there a decision that we need to make that the rose flower, should it make the atmosphere beautiful and fragrant or not? There is no such thing. When an individual blossoms, he will make his atmosphere beautiful. To what extent depends on individual skills, what will be the reach of that person, and it's also about the times in which we live. If we were born here 1,000 years ago, would you and me be talking from Tennessee to London? Would that be possible? No, you would be talking locally there, I would be talking locally here. But today, we can act in different ways. So how we act in the world is not entirely ours. It is the times which enables us to act in a particular way. But what we are and what we exude, will it transform the world? Definitely it does. There is no such thing as society, it's just a word. It is only individuals which are the reality. But unfortunately, human beings, instead of being beings, we are the only creatures on this planet who are referred to as beings. That means we are supposed to know how to be. How far away are we from that as a generation of people? Every other creature is there. They are all… their way of being is fixed by nature. That is, their responses to what happens to them is all fixed by nature. Instinctively they respond and they manage to survive and live. because the goal of their life is essentially survival. If their stomach is full, their reproductive needs are taken care of, they are complete, they don't aspire for anything else. But once you have come as a human being, there's an endless aspiration to be something more and something more. If you really look at it, how much ever you become, still there is something more. So this something more is not for all… for more things or more stuff as we are addressing it today, because you mentioned marketing and lust and stuff. All these are different expressions. The longing within a human being is to expand limitlessly. You cannot stop this. With all kinds of pacifist philosophies, no, God wants you to be content with what you have, this, that, all kinds of philosophies, but you've not been able to contain it in a single human being actually. Only it works when you're sick or when you're very old. Otherwise, if there's little energy coursing through your veins, you want to be something more, you want to do something more. This is a natural consequence of being human. Because for every other creature, nature has fixed two lines within which they live and die. For a human being, there is no top line because you have the necessary intelligence and access to consciousness, whether individuals access it or not, but you have access to that dimension which we refer to as consciousness, that you can become a boundless creature. That is why you are a being. You are not another creature, you are a being, that means you know how to be. If you know how to be, will you naturally transform the atmosphere around you? Yes. Actively or passively is an individual choice, how actively you want to do it. But if a flower blossoms, will it transform the atmosphere? Definitely it will.
Hello, sorry for interrupting other me and your video. From February next year all the way to May, I'm going to be appearing in Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester, Margate, Stoke-on-Trent, Plymouth, Bath. I'm all over England doing my show 33, in which I talk about radical ideas, the craziness of lockdown and what we've got to do to change the world. Please come and see me. There's a link in the description. Get your ticket now.
It seems from what you're saying that you consider the priority to be the inward journey and to trust the inevitability of organic environmental change as a kind of byproduct of that. I suppose what I'm querying, Sadhguru, is the abdication of social responsibility that I associate with modern New Age spirituality, which seems to be emulating the cultural individualism of Western countries, for the sake of simplicity, in other forms. I.e., whilst I recognise that society is to a degree a construct, and the only thing we're certain of the reality of is our own subjective experience, do you not feel that part of our awakening in service of this authentic connection to consciousness is a kind of creation of harmonious environments and systems that may challenge the existing order by design or just by happenstance?
See, when you say the word New Age, you must understand age is related to the body and material things in the world. When you talk about spiritual dimension of a human being, it is not subject to age or time. So what is a timeless process? If you try to fix a time, obviously people have arrived at a certain set of values or ethics or no ethics or reaction to societies in which they exist or some philosophy of their own. Spiritual process is not a philosophy, it is not an ideology, it is not a scripture, it is not a religion. It is human longing to be more. And when you realize little more is not going to settle you, you want it all, then you become spiritual. So, right now most people's understanding of spirituality is, they think spirituality is a kind of a disability. Spirituality is the greatest empowerment. When you realize your empowerment, you doing the best that you can do in the times in which you live is a natural outcome. I am not saying… I am not looking at life as inward development versus external impact. If inward development happens, genuinely happens, then external impact is unavoidable. You will naturally do the best that you can do, because essentially, in reaction to society in which we exist, human beings are going through various types of sufferings within themselves. Because of the fear of suffering, people curtail their lives and weave philosophies, how you just mind your own business, don't touch anybody else, just be happy, pray to God, look up, look down, do whatever, and be well by yourself. This is a philosophy you are weaving just to… you're building a cocoon so that you're not touched by anything. What you're doing is you're just buying an insurance against life. You're essentially making sure you don't experience life. Spiritual process is an exploration of the limitless possibility of what we can be. In this, there is no philosophy needed whether you will do something for the world around you or not, because it will inevitably happen. How powerfully it will happen? As I said, it depends on individual competence, it depends on the times in which we exist, the social situations, many things are there, all right? It depends what is the focus of the world at that given time. All these things will impact how much impact. For example, no, I will take examples which will be very controversial and trouble, both for you and me. Like for example, Krishna, a tremendous being. Most people don't understand the complexity of his life because they think he's just one god that you worship. No, as a man, very, very complex and active. Active to a point, if a war happens, he's engaged with that also, all right? But how many people does he get to speak in his time? Only one guy. And that guy has 100 questions for everything that he says. Well, Buddha was little more fortunate, he cultivated his time, atmosphere around him, and he got to speak to a few thousand people. Jesus, only 12 people, that also one guy freaked on him, all right? It is only today that world has come to a place, there is substantial time for human beings to suffer, I'm telling you. Because all these years, human beings were just largely engaged in survival activity. If you are a farmer or a hunter or whatever, whichever way you survived, your entire day was involved in that, there was no time to sit back and suffer. It's only now that your food is well organized, your survival is well organized. As societies become more affluent, suffering is going up immensely. Only now people are realizing how much suffering they are capable of. Otherwise, you were busy from morning to evening, you had no time to suffer. Now you are left to the means of your own intelligence, and the sharper it is, the more hurtful it is for most people. So, this is happening, so this is the best time. And this is also the best time because of the technological possibilities that you have, because this is the first time in the history of humanity you can sit in one place and address the whole human population. This was never before possible, let's not underestimate this. This is the time. If at all, if we want to bring about any transformation, this is the time. If we don't do anything about it, it just shows that we are not concerned, we're simply not concerned. Because never before this was possible. Many, many great beings have come, but when they spoke, hardly 10 people heard them. This is the first time, so it's very, very important the right things go out there.
What do you think about that? Do you agree with Sadhguru? Hit me up in the comments below with what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Do you think spirituality is even the answer? Do you believe in this new emergent class of leaders, preachers, spiritual seekers, or do you think that there's some phony baloney pursuit of money? Do you even think that's true of me? I'm asking myself questions all the time. How do we stay pure individually and collectively? It's something I think we can only achieve together. Tell me what you think in the comments. Give us a like. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this one. And have a look at this one. Learn a little bit of meditative practice. This is a meditation I've done with Deepak Chopra. Here I've cut it down so it's just a meditation. You'll love it. You'll see that I go on a real trip with it. I really, really enjoyed it. If you want to sign up to my podcast network, Luminary, you can do it. It's not mine, I'm just a person that's on it. Sign up to that as well. And please consider joining my mailing list so I can communicate with you regularly, tell you the books I'm reading, what I'm thinking, what teachers I'm listening to, what podcasts I'm doing. Most importantly of all though, stay free.